Hey guys, Sean, Leslie Lover Dummies. Tippmann TMC update. It's a good news, bad news kind of day. Mostly good news. So I'll start with the bad news. You've been following me long enough. I was running a drilled valve inside this. The way the Tippmann valve operates, it has a valve pin and, well, here, I got it right here. Valve pin, and then inside here there's a guide, and then a valve seat. So I drilled through here and removed the guide essentially. So this pin, unfortunately, was always able to float in here. Now I knew I was on borrowed time. I knew what I was doing. I knew that this could potentially become a problem, and it has. I did manage to get a lot of rounds through this though before it happened, but nonetheless, just not something I would recommend anybody does. Sure, I could swap this out every 1,000 rounds or whatever, rebuild the marker. Realistically, even I don't want to do that. So what happened is I bent the pin. You can see it there. See how it's not very straight? Probably also pick it up there. That reflection would go away. Well, you can see it there. It is no longer straight. That's where the bad news ends. While diagnosing and troubleshooting, trying to find that problem, I ran into another issue. My marker would not recock. I didn't change anything. And this just boils down to sheer laziness, guys. If you are troubleshooting your marker, or if you are tinkering with your marker, at least put it back to like mostly firing mode. What I learned about the Tippmann TMC, at least set up for, power, less lethal types of power. The hopper cover and the barrel are very important parts of it functioning. So without the hopper cover installed and the barrel installed, it wouldn't recock. With the hopper port installed and no barrel, it wouldn't recock. With both of them installed, it recocked. So I was chasing my tail on that one for a little bit just because I didn't want to, the amount of times this thing comes apart when I'm kind of, we'll call it prototyping things, can make it tedious to be taking parts on and off. So I tried to limit the amount of those actions that I do. But in this case, I learned the hard way, and it probably wasted hours of my time when all it was just put some of the parts back on. Assemble it as you were going to shoot it. Next, I installed a factory valve. So I had one of these guys kicking around. I always have extra parts when I can. I installed the factory valve with the factory spring. It is unmodified. It is just a drop-in replacement essentially. I left my Tech T light and bolt, my heavy dry spring, and my Delrin bolt in here. Same barrel, same tank. Man, I lost like 60, 70 FPS. And there's no way that me drilling, the amount of material that if you saw that I took out of this was very minimal. Important to the function of this valve, but there's no way it volumized that much. So again, the marker comes apart. It's the simplest thing, guys. It's the simplest thing. Now, I had this issue before when my marker wouldn't recock, and it was the front bolt. This Delrin bolt and the Tippmann bolt, the factory bolt that comes in here, and I think a couple other bolts, have an O-ring seal on the front. TIPX has one very similar, TCR. First time my marker wouldn't recock, that O-ring actually got jammed up in here and it was causing friction. This time, it had actually worn thin. Essentially, the amount of rounds that I put through this, I wore that front tip O-ring out and I was getting a lot of air that was just, when it's trying to force that heavy ball down the barrel, the air is just blowing back into the marker. And I should have picked up on it because I was starting to get a lot of oil kind of seepage, you know, right around, coming out of pretty much any hole you could have here. And that's kind of indicative of it blowing back. I swapped the O-ring, boom. And then there's more good news. And I'm going to show it to you right now. So, no drilling, no pinning the hammer. This is just a fat dry spring, the factory valve, a 14-inch barrel. Oh yeah, and there's a ball bearing in the Tech T light and bolt. Byrna Kinetics, 2.9 grams, 1100 PSI. This marker, last outing, I shot a 500 on the first shot, and then it kind of settled around, I think it was like 482, 480, you know, right in the 480s. I'll cock it, and I put in my metal charge handle again. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's a little crunchy. But I'm really concerned about yanking on that plastic handle now with this big spring in here. Charge it up. Or 76. $480. Oh. Did I only put, oh, how did I manage that? I only put 2 balls in there. Have you ever seen me blowing on my balls? It's not for good luck. This well-used ballistic nylon, you can see, is polyurethane coated, and it kind of leaves this, after it's been shot up a bunch, it leaves this crunchy kind of white sheet. Sorry. So I always just blow my balls off. I should be washing my balls, but I don't have time. Stutter means it's empty now. I'm learning. See where I'm getting at? The drilled valve is completely unnecessary and only created a problem that didn't exist. Now, drilling has been successful in a lot of other markers, but in this case, you can skip it. You need the springs, the hammer, and this isn't gonna be a link video. It's more like a teaser because I'm still waiting for that other spring and a barrel. So once I get all the pieces together and they are all working properly, I will put links to all this stuff. If you're savvy enough, I did mention all the names, and you know, you can Google it out, no problem. One other thing before I go. I did get a comment last week, and I know it was in good nature, just saying, don't waste your time, just get another marker. I have lots of other markers, and I know he knew that too. But I thought I'd put it out there. The reason I do this is enjoyment. I like to see what's left in these things, and M17 is a perfect example. I drilled and poked holes in that thing, swapped springs, did this, did that, troubleshoot everything. And while I can't manufacture parts, a lot of people took that information and ran with it. And I'm happy for that. I'm not gonna get all bent about, you know, my ideas, because ideas aren't copyright. And I'm willing to share them just like the TMC. I hope that all this work I'm putting in will draw some attention, you know. Maybe some parts will pop up that are more performance oriented as opposed to, you know, what we're dealing with now, which is paintball parts, but, you know, we're making do, or I'm making do anyways. And if you're watching, there is one very important thing that I left out that I did to this, and I'm surprised that it worked, at least for now. The valve fits inside a plastic power tube. I should have brought it out. A couple videos ago, I noted I used thread tape to put my little bung inside here. I noticed it was blowing out. It wasn't from the actual threads of this. The plastic spool, or sorry, the plastic power tube is actually swelling, and air is escaping around this port. And if you can see, air is supposed to travel down these channels and then out the front and out your barrel like this. And all it is when this swells, air escapes, kind of squeaks out and then blows out here. So there's definitely wasted air happening. Yes, I am aware they sell a A5 and a 98 aluminum power tube. Unfortunately, neither of those fit without modification. But I will be ordering one to at least attempt a modification on to get to work, because I think an aluminum tube, in our case, for its rigidity, it would make for a much tighter seal than the plastic could ever give. So if you're watching, keep watching, because something might come from that. I'm out of here.